Feel pretty good about that?
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me was guessing how it's going to affect the business.
Hmm.
Um, user looks kind of obvious, but the business is the harder part. So, but it's fine.
Yeah. A lot of times, you'll have help with that as well. Like, so like if you're working on a team, like, like you'll connect with your product managers and any other people on your like product team and whatnot. And like, you'll all kind of collectively come up with that number. So
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of assumed that, so I just was like, all right, sounds good.
Kelsey, can you still not hear anything? And so you may want to close it out and try to join back. Well, I guess you can't hear me.
I just sent her a message.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so now that we have our issues ranked by severity and we know um, which ones are kind of more pressing issues, which ones are a little bit less to worry about, now we're going to come up with um, creating solutions and recommendations and kind of ranking your solutions and trying to figure out which ones to work on first, which ones kind of take priority over the other. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is start to generate our solutions. So after analyzing the data and prioritizing the usability concerns, it's time for us to start making recommendations and suggesting potential solutions. So there are often ambiguous concerns in addition to relatively straightforward issues that have more or less obvious solutions. So for more serious concerns with no obvious solutions, we take a divergent to convergent approach. So being divergent. So the first thing that we want to do is create multiple solutions. So you should create several solution ideas for each issue that you're trying to address. Then after that, you're going to use your brainstorming principles. So basically using the same brainstorming or workshopping techniques that we've covered before to start to generate these ideas for our solutions. Then you want to work with words first, right? So you want to start with words to describe the possible solution. Not really trying to focus on the visual part of that from the beginning. The main concern is trying to state how you would solve that issue with words first. So like basically stating what the solution would be instead of actually showing what the solution would be. Reorganize the solutions, keeping them specific so that it's easier to evaluate our ideas. So for example, instead of just saying avoid using a hamburger menu, it's better to state a more specific solution, such as use a horizontal navigation and vertical tree menu. So trying to be as specific as possible with your solutions rather than keeping them just kind of open-ended or vague as the previous statement in this one. So saying avoid using a hamburger menu is pretty vague and it's not really a solution. But being more specific with it by saying use a horizontal navigation is much more specific. So brainstorm solutions. So basically, so this is the table for creating our solutions based on the different issues that we'll have. And so similar to our issues, we'll have a solution ID. So you'll number your solutions, or like I said, however you come up with your ID system is up to you. So they can be numbers, or you can use an alphabetical system. That's up to you. And so similar to how we had our issues, you'll come up with your solution ID, and then you'll state your solution idea. So you'll have the description for it. And then you'll have the issues in one column, and the solution will show which issues that will address. So as you can see in this example here, we have 3 different solutions. So a solution would be make Twitter button bigger with standard blue color. Another solution is make Twitter button bigger and put the email login in another screen state. And then the third is remove hamburger menu and reorganize the navigation hierarchically. And so this solution here solves issue 1. The second solution also solves issue 1, while the third solution solves issue 2 and 3. So basically you're stating which issues that solution will address. And sometimes your solution can address multiple issues. So after that, you're going to prioritize your solutions. So oftentimes you'll have a product manager that'll be involved with prioritizing different features. But it's also very helpful to the product manager if you, as a UX designer, can help them to create better recommendations for their issue prioritizations. So basically, as a UX designer, you want to kind of help your product manager in that process. So by doing so, the issues have already been prioritized. So now we can begin to find those recommendations that address the highest number of issues, as well as those that address the most severe issues. The more severe the issue addressed, the better the solution will be. So we do this by summing up all of the severities of all issues addressed by the solution. Summing the severity creates an effectiveness score for the solution. And I'll show that here in a table. So basically you're taking the sum of the different severities of all the issues, and you're adding those together to create an effectiveness score for the solution. Next, you're going to rate the complexity of the solution. So similar to how we did with our business impact score, as well as the user impact score, you're going to come up with another complexity score for your solution. So you'll rank it from 1 to 5, depending on which, so 1 representing kind of like the least complex solution, and 5 being very complex. And so when thinking about your complexity solution score, you need to think about a few things. So the first is like, who is involved? The next would be what technologies will be used to create the solution. So potentially, will there need to be a custom built solution, or is this something that could be a potential like off the shelf type of implementation? So something that has already been implemented in other technologies, or is this something that needs to be custom built by the designers as well as developers? And the third one is how clear are the business and user requirements around the issue? So kind of think about these 3 things when thinking about creating a complexity score for your solution. And so once you have those 2 things, both our effectiveness of the solution and the complexity of the solution, you're going to calculate a return on investment score. So you're going to use the complexity and effectiveness ratings to calculate a return on investment. This represents the cost-benefit relationship between the solution and its implementation. So to calculate the ROI, you're going to divide the effectiveness score by the complexity score. And then usually the higher the number on the ROI score is usually going to be your bigger return on investment. So the lower the number is going to be, a lower return on investment. And so the ones that have a higher score, the ones that are going to be your biggest return on investment are the ones that you'd want to focus on first. So you're going to strive to kind of create those solutions first because they offer you a bigger return on investment. So I know all of that was a little confusing to hear. So now I'm going to kind of show you guys what this looks like in our table here. And so thinking back to the example that I just showed you, so you still have your solution ID number, and then you have the description of the solution. And so you're going to look at the issues that it addresses. So keeping in mind, solution 1 addresses the first issue, solution 2 addresses the first issue, but solution 3 addresses issue 2 and 3. And so you're going to look at the score that was created yesterday when we created our what's it called? Our my mind just went blank. The impact score.
The severity?
Yes, right. So this example is showing the severity score that I showed in yesterday's presentation. So issue 1 had a severity score of 5, issue 2 had a 6.7, and then issue 3 had a 10. And so you're going to look at these numbers, and for each solution, you're going to add them up and come up with your effectiveness. So for the first solution, it only addresses one issue, which is a 5. And so you're essentially adding 5 to nothing. And so you'll come out with a 5. The same thing for the second solution here. The issue severity score is a 5. And so your effectiveness score is a 5 for that solution. Now for the third solution here, this solution solves issue 2 and 3. So you're going to add these two together. You're going to add the severity scores together, which give you a 16.67. So that's essentially how you calculate the effectiveness score. It's just your issue severity scores added together for that solution, whichever issues that solution looks to solve. So then you come over here to your complexity score, and remember your complexity score is on a 5-point scale. So 1 being it's little to no complexity, so it should be pretty easy to implement, and 5 being it's very complex, and so it's going to probably take a lot more time and be a little bit harder to implement. And so, and again, these scores are just based on the team, like who all needs to be involved, whether it's the designers, developers, whomever, the different technologies, as well as how clear are the requirements. And so you'll come up with your complexity score. So in this example, we give our first solution a complexity score of 1. So making the Twitter button bigger with a standard blue color has a very low complexity score. So it's just a 1. So making the Twitter button bigger and put the email login in another screen state is a little bit more complex. So we'll give that a 3. And then removing the hamburger menu and reorganizing the navigation hierarchically is much more complex. And so we'll give that a 5. And so our return on investment for each one of these solutions is calculated by dividing our effectiveness score by the complexity score. So here, 5 divided by 1 is 5. And so the first solution has a return on investment score of 5. The second one here is 5 divided by 3, which gives us 1.67. And so that's our return on investment score for the second solution. And then our third solution here, we'll take this 16.67 and divide that by 5, and we get a 3.33. And so that's our return on investment score there. And so between these three solutions, the first solution has a higher return on investment. The third solution has the second highest return on investment, and the second solution has the lowest return on investment. So that's how you know how to prioritize these solutions. So you go by the return on investment score. And so with this, you'll probably implement the first solution first, just because it has a higher return on investment score. Any questions about this? And we'll put this into practice with some of our examples that we used yesterday. We'll put this into practice using the shop app that JP was a participant in, and then we'll also put this into practice with the Amazon exercise that you guys did. So that way you can kind of see this in practice. It's a little bit more math from yesterday, but it's still pretty simple math. Essentially, all you're doing is adding up the different issues that your solution will cover, and that gets you your effectiveness score, and then you come up with the complexity score on your own. It's just a 1 through 5 scale, and then you divide those two, and you get your return on investment for that solution. And so that's kind of how you know how to prioritize your solutions and begin to implement them. Any questions before I kind of get into the summary of this, as well as we start to put them into practice? All right, so in summary, between yesterday and today, you'll start by collecting your data. You'll prioritize your issues according to the specific parameters that we went over yesterday. And so that will give you your severity score of each issues. And so then you can prioritize your issues. From that, you will generate solution ideas for those issues. And then you'll begin to prioritize potential solutions. And then you'll get your solution scores and figure out which solutions have a higher return on investment, and then start to tackle away at those different issues that you saw within your usability test. So this is kind of the timeline here for tackling different issues found in your usability test. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, so let's take a look at, let's go back to what we did yesterday with JP's example. So back to when JP was a participant for the shop example that we had, where we asked the user to create an account and they had to click on the sign in to create an account. We came up with two different issues. The first issue was the user was unable to view the password on the create account screen, which had a severity score of 6. And then we also had a second issue where creating an account is not as apparent from the home screen. And so that one had a severity score of 15. And so now we can come up with solutions. So we'll have, and I'll just do this inside of this same spreadsheet here. So we'll have our solution ID, we'll have the solution idea or description of our solution. So we had two issues here. So we'll say I1 1, which stands for issue 1, and then we'll have I2 for the second issue. And then we'll have our effectiveness score, our complexity score, and then our overall return on investment. Okay, so let's come up with some different solutions, and they can be solutions for either one of these to tackle. Pretty much this one, the issues here are pretty much unrelated. So any solution that we come up with probably won't solve both, but they'll at least solve one or the other. And so let's figure out some different solutions that we can implement to alleviate these issues. That's more so for you guys. Any solutions that you can think of?
You just show the password when it types. You have an option on the side.
Okay.
If you click on it, then you see the website, the password.
Okay. And so that solves issue 1. So we'll just put a 1 there. Another solution?
So Brandon, I had a question. So I understand this is like really simple, but suppose if showing the password just involved too much development, is one of the solutions to maybe not have that, don't offer it, just take it off?
I mean, it could be. So for this, okay, let's go into this first entire solution, right? So we'll give this an effectiveness score. So remember, our first issue had a severity score of 6. So I'll put 6 in there. So we remember that's effectiveness score, severity score. And then the second one had 15. So our effectiveness is essentially 6 for this one because it's only solving one issue. And our complexity score, so let's say this were very complex, right? And so our complexity score, let's give it a 4, even though we know that, creating a show password button isn't very complex, but let's just say it was. So our return on investment will be 6 divided by 4. Taking out my handy dandy calculator here, which gives us an ROI of 1.5. And so let's create a solution for our home screen. So maybe we have we offer 2 buttons. 2 buttons. We'll have one that says sign in and another that says create account. And so this solves issue number 2. So its effectiveness score is 15 and its complexity, let's say, is also a 4. And so now we have 15 divided by 4. And so our return on investment for this second solution is 3.75. So going back to your question, like, do you not implement it if it's too complex and stuff like that? Really with this, so you look at all the issues that your user had in your usability test. So you don't want to ignore their issues. So if it was an issue, then, you do want to take it into account, right? And so once you look at all the different issues that the user had, so between these two here, we're looking at these issues, we're coming up with different solutions for both. We'll look at our return on investment. So you'll see that like the 2-button option here has a higher return on investment than the show password button. So you can address the issue of the show password, but right now it's not, it has a lower return on investment. So it may be something that you work on later. And so you're not looking really to address it right now, but it may be something that you could address, or you can just continue to ignore it.
So here's another question. So say for the second solution that we are working on, we decided because it has a higher return on investment score, so let's just do this now. And while the other one is in effect, so do we just leave it like just not working, or do we disable it, or what? I mean, is it still something that users can see and interact with?
Typically you'll just kind of leave it as is until you begin to work on it. But a lot of times, this is kind of up to your product manager. Even though it has a lower return on investment, but actually, in actuality, the show password button is pretty.
Yeah, I get that. But just for, I mean, we're just
right.
So if we had like a few things that were issues, but they had a more return on investment rate, so they're still out there while we're working on the other things, right?
Right.
That was my question.
So really, you're trying to prioritize what to work on first, because you're not going to always be able to work on everything at one time. And so the things that have the higher return on investment usually are going to mean that they're, because remember, our severity score is based upon how much it's going to impact your business, as well as how much does it impact your users. And so when you're looking at the solutions, they will typically kind of balance out. So like the ones that you're going to work on first are typically going to be the ones that really impact your business or really impact the user. So like what you were saying, like with the show password, like leaving it for now while you work on the bigger issue is okay. Like it's kind of a, like you're like, okay, we're okay with keeping this like this for now, because it doesn't keep the user from using our product, right?
But
it's
is
more
the goal to eventually solve everything depending on? Yeah. Okay.
Right. So like you're coming up with so like the goal is to address each one of these issues, but you're trying to prioritize which issues to work on first based on the solutions. And so, going back to this example, like we know that creating a show password button isn't as complex. So really that one would kind of be a 1 or maybe even a 2. But let's just say if it were a 1, then our return on investment is actually a 6, which will put it higher than the 2-button solution. And it's a quicker solution to implement. So since it has a higher return on investment, you'll go ahead and implement that one first, and it's easier, so that you can quickly get to the second one. So any questions about how we came up with our effectiveness score, or how we came up with the complexity score, or the return on investment score? Also keep in mind, this is just one way of tackling issues and solutions. This is kind of more of a scientific way, because you can actually have numbers to go by and data to go by. And so you can create these different scores and figure out which solutions to work on first.
Brendan, I just have a quick question. Sorry. Can you go back and tell us how you got to effectiveness?
Right.
Completely skipped my mind, and it's so important. So shut up.
Right. So the effectiveness is, okay, so let's say we had a third solution here, right? And I don't really know how, but let's say whatever this solution, we'll just say it has a description. I'm just going to put description. So let's say whatever this solution is, it actually it solves issue 1 and 2. And so it solves issue 1 and it also solves issue 2 somehow. For this example, it's probably not as good because it's kind of hard to come up with a solution that would solve our view password and creating an account. Well, let's just say that it did, right? So your effectiveness score is going to be the severity score of all the issues that this solution solves. And so with this one, it solves 1 and 2. And so you'll add the severity score from issue 1 and issue 2. So you'll add the 6 plus the 15, which gives us 21. With these other 2 examples, there was nothing to add them to. Their issue, basically just you adding them to nothing. And so their effectiveness score is essentially their severity score.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So essentially our effectiveness score is the sum of the issue severities that solution solves. So if that solution solves more than one issue, then you'll add all those issues together and get your effectiveness score. If it only solves one issue, then you'll essentially just use that same issue's severity score. But yeah, I was saying that this is essentially just one way of tackling solutions based on your issues, and even one way to tackle just like how to figure out which issues arise and whatnot. I'm going to show you guys a little bit later a visual way that's more collaborative, that's kind of more of like a team effort, and it's a little more fun. It's a little less accurate because you're not really dealing with numbers per se, but you're just kind of, it's more of an extended or it's more of an extended brainstorm session. But I'll show you that, guys. I'll show you that later. It's a visual method that you can use instead of using these tables and charts. But for now, let's see. I'm trying to think, do I want you guys to take a break now? Or would you rather go ahead and do the Amazon activity with this first? You want to take a quick 5-minute break first, and then we'll come back?
I don't know. I'm not ready for a break. I don't know if anybody else is. I mean, unless you got to go pee or tell your mom happy belated birthday because you forgot yesterday, then. Yeah.
I didn't forget, and I actually, well, since I wasn't there. I feel bad because I just cashed out her money. I'm like, that's so.
Oh no, son, that's
insincere,
great.
But
No, it's not. We like cash app, moms.
I know, but it didn't come with a card or anything. I just feel like it was just kind of a last minute solution. But
you did something. It's okay.
I know. I'll go ahead and let you take a 5-minute break just because the Amazon activity may go a little bit over some of our time. So I'll let you guys just take a quick 5-minute break, and then that way we can get into the activities afterwards. So you guys can put this into practice.
Cool.
So yeah, take the next 5 minutes to kind of do what you need to do, and then we'll come back in a little bit, and we'll add this practice onto our Amazon experiment that we did yesterday.
Hey, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking more about the scores and all, because we're just designers. Why do we get to choose what the severity is? We may not understand the programming that goes behind it. Isn't that something maybe a developer should do, this sort of analysis?
So you mean for like the complexity score?
Yeah, like how do I know how hard it is to show a password or how hard it is to do this or that? I'm just, just visual.
Right.
So,
A lot of times that's kind of where the collaborative nature will come into play. So remember I said like with the complexity score, a lot of times that'll be kind of like a team effort to figure that out, to figure out.
so there are developers. I feel like developers have to be there to decide.
Right. And if they're not there, a lot of times you'll ask them anyway. You'll kind of say, hey, this is a solution that we're looking at. Like, how hard do you think this solution will be?
So is this collaborative? Yes, but primarily, is this the design team's job or the development team's job?
It's more of a product team. So the product team is going to be your designers, developers, and like product managers.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
So it's gonna be whoever is on the team that's working on the overall product.
Okay.
Because what you're trying to do with this is to have something to show to stakeholders, so that when they're wondering like, what are you working on as far as like what issues are you trying to address with their product and whatnot, this is kind of like a way for you to show them like, okay, we're going to start working on this first, then this next thing, and then this next thing based on the information that we have here.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you.
But yeah, no. A lot of times, yeah, because designers, like, we can even guess how complex we think it'll be, but we really don't know, because I've actually made that mistake a lot of times where like I'm like, okay, well, this shouldn't be too crazy for the developer. And then like I'll go back and ask my developer and he's like, no, I'll have to change like an entire back end thing. Like, this is not just a front end issue, this is a back end issue, And so they'll tell me that like it'll take like months to do, and I'm like, oh crap, I didn't know it would take that long, but yeah, no, that one. And even if they're not like right there with you guys, like while you're working on this is something that you can always go and ask a developer. You can always ping one of the developers and say, hey, we're looking to work on this solution. What are your thoughts? And as developers, they will be very honest with you.
Yeah, they have to be, right?
Right.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Let's stop sharing my screen. Okay. I don't remember who all was in what group, so you guys are gonna have to help me to remember while I'm creating these breakout rooms.
We're in the same groups?
Yeah, from yesterday, just so you can work on the same thing that you were doing with Amazon, creating the different issues that you saw. So now you'll come up with different solutions and come up with solution scores.
I was with Christina, Joshua, and Miguel.
Okay. Christina, Joshua, and Miguel. I'm not seeing on here. Is Miguel not here today?
It doesn't look it.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't think Miguel is on today.
Okay, that's fine. Kelsey, who's in your group?
It was Serena and Brandon and I.
We're putting it in the chat, Brendan, so you can see.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, think I have it set to the way it was yesterday. All right, so basically you guys are gonna create a solutions table. So think back to the Amazon activity that we did yesterday. Think about the tasks that you were asked to do with that. And so now you're going to come up with solutions for those tasks, and then also rank the solutions to figure out which ones you would work on first. So essentially, you're going to come up with the solutions, their descriptions, which issues that they tackle, come up with the effectiveness score, the complexity score, and then your ROI score. And as usual, we'll pop in and out of the different groups to help you guys out, or if there's any confusions or questions. I took a screenshot of the table that I created for the solutions worksheet. So you guys, I'll post that for you so that you can use that as an example. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and open the rooms. We'll take about 20 minutes. So try to take at least 10 minutes to come up with solutions for the issues, and then the last 10 minutes to create the solutions worksheet. Any questions before I break you out into the different rooms?
So we enter or like input all the data within those columns, right? Each and every one? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. And if you have any questions about how do you get those scores, just ping me or I'll jump into the groups and
okay. Yeah.
I feel like Zoom should call these something else, because when I think of breakout rooms, I think y'all are going to battle each other in a breakdancing contest or something. Sorry, that's the weirdness that goes on in my brain. All right, opening the rooms.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Seasoning and cheese Danish. My only carbs of the day. So I got it strategically. I know exactly how many carbs this is. So I'm I could do this and stay in. That's all I can eat though. Hey.
This is what I came up with and had to review in 40 minutes.
So, Gabe, I'm creating this Google Sheets template document that has all of the formulas in there. So then I'm going to give it to you, and then you can turn it into a super fantastic UX app.
Yeah, I think for tomorrow that would work. I don't think I'll be able to finish it tomorrow after seeing today. Yeah.
All the formulas are in the Google Sheet.
Yeah. But yeah, that would be nice. Kelsey made one yesterday, and then I had her show it to the group. It was really helpful.
So funny he calls you Ryan. My son calls his dad Ryan, and he doesn't call him dad. Hey, Ryan.
kind of reminds me of you remember that show Dinosaurs with the baby?
Oh,
Like, he would always say not the
yeah.
mama. Like he
Not the
never
mama,
called
no.
him
Oh,
dad.
I love that show. That was a good one.
Do you remember how it ended? It was
No.
super sad. Oh, do not watch it.
All right, I'm not. I
Do
don't
not
remember. I
watch
was a
it. Like,
kid. I was a kid. I don't
right.
remember.
I went, so it's on Hulu, and I went back and I
I
watched
have
some
Hulu
of it.
too.
But the last episode is so depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
What's
basically
this show
yeah,
called? Dinosaurs?
Mhm.
Dinosaurs? Let me see. I found it.
Is it the cartoon one, or is that the?
They were like puppets, or Muppet-y puppets. Like Jim Henson created them, so
It's this one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
This
You remember
show.
this?
Yeah.
This show. Yeah.
I don't remember much, but I do remember the YouTube video that went viral. It's him, the main guy, and dubbing the.
Georgie Must Die? What? That's the title of it?
No, I don't. Maybe I don't remember that being. I don't know. All I know is basically, I mean, because it's about dinosaurs.
Send
so
me
like,
the video, Gabe. Sorry.
Huh?
Send me that video.
The Hypnotize by Biggie. And
I've never seen this.
So
what the hell?
Good. It's so good. It's so accurate. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh my god. Mashup? Is it a mashup?
Yeah. So yeah, if you want, you can share it and we can watch it. Like a few seconds of it. It's so good.
Okay.
Your average Papa twist cabbage off instinct. Niggas don't mean shit, stink pink gators. My Detroit players, Tim's for my hooligans in Brooklyn. Dead right, if the head right, Biggie there, and I. Papa been smooth since days of under rules. Never lose, never choose to. Bruise, cruise, who? Do something to us. Talk good to us. Girls want to us, wanna do us, screw us, who us? Yeah, Papa and Pump. Close like Starsky and
Someone spent a lot of time doing
this. I squeeze 3 at your cherry M3.
It's like accurate.
MC easily. Take that. Recently, niggas frontin' ain't saying nothing, so I just speak my
crazy. I've never seen that.
It's funny because in one of other Biggie songs, he goes, "With my red and black lumberjack." He says that.
So he acknowledges it. No, it wasn't even the same. It wasn't the same time, was it? Was he alive during that time?
I should have been.
Yeah, I think so.
Because Biggie died in like 97 or 98.
Yeah.
It's starting to get cold here. Is it cold there yet, Gabe?
Yeah, in the morning. But then when it gets like 1
noon,
like
it's like hella hot here. Yeah, I know. I was like, well, I'm gonna enjoy the 50 degrees out. The last right now.
And we may not get a rubric for this one until around the same time yesterday that we got it. Because I think Christian has a class too, so I know he was working on stuff for his class. Also with Sprint Challenge, I still don't know.
We're just winging it.
Pretty much. Yeah, because the training kit still hasn't been updated with any of this information for today. Okay.
You did do your best. She's like, do I look pretty? I did my best. She's combing her hair. I like how kids announce everything. I gotta pee.
That's because, being kids, they think that the world revolves around them, so they got to announce everything.
They do. They literally announce everything.
It's like to us, we're like,
I need juice.
Right? Like, we're like, we don't really care, but we have to care because they're kids. Hey, Gabe, with this solutions, like ranking system, you think you'll be able to add that to the app as well? To where it kind of includes both?
By tomorrow, no.
Yeah, no, yeah, probably not by tomorrow.
Oh yeah, not tomorrow.
I keep forgetting that like they don't have any experience working with like developers and or working across a product team. It's like, to me, when I get questions like that, like the answer's obvious to me, but then I keep forgetting that they've never had experience working with like product teams and stuff.
You know what's crazy to me? They're going to be hitting labs the first week of December.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't even seem like that's like so soon. That's what it says on the thingy. But I was just like, what?
Yeah, because they go through Unit 3 next month.
Yeah.
And then labs right after.
I think of the design thing.
Then the web portion, and then labs.
Yeah, okay. I think web is November. So Unit 3 is October. November's web, and then after that, December.
Oh, yeah. Forget there were 2 months between September and December.
And they get a 3-week break, right, for winter, mid-labs.
Right.
I finished the curriculum in December, and I start labs in January, the first week.
Nice.
Yeah. Right now we're working with nonprofit, with Lambda.
We still TL for labs?
Me? Wait, who?
Or us? Or are they going to be in a different, different groups?
They should be in different groups when they get into labs, I guess, right? I mean, it won't be like a whole bunch of UX in a group. They'll be just like, they'll be spread up between working with developers.
Oh, they're joining the web teams.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're building it from scratch with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's like 10 web people and like 5 or less UX designers on the team.
Usually there's just one. This is my second time in labs, and I've never had a UX designer on our team.
Really?
Yeah, it's very rare.
Right.
Very, very rare that a team will have a UX designer.
So the teams that get them only get one because they're spread pretty.
That's weird. My TL had 2 or 3 in his group. It was just like, wow, that's a lot of UX designers in one group.
Oh wow.
Labs?
They're in labs right now. My TLs in part-time. Yeah. They're full-time students and they're in labs. They're in one of the first cohorts. I think they might be in the first one actually. They're at the end. They're hitting job phase soon.
The first UX cohort is officially done. But there was only one of them finished. So, and a good friend of mine is in UX too, and she's on the market.
Yeah, a lot of because this whole nonprofit thing, they were like, the TLs were telling us that we're super lucky because they never got opportunities like this, like to work with like companies like this or organizations or whatever. Yeah. They were telling us, they were like, you guys are so lucky. This is so cool.
my cohort was the first one to get to have that opportunity. So.
Oh, the kid that joined our thing, he joined it.
Yeah.
He's totally chill. There's been no issues.
Perfect. That's fantastic.
So it was weird. Like he was talking, he was open, he wasn't acting all weird.
Yeah.
Because I gave the SL a heads up. I was like, let me just slow you down on this person before he joins our group.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know how he's gonna act. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Right.
But he actually was being very vulnerable to the stakeholder, and he shared his experience and all that. Did he share his experience with y'all too?
Oh yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
Stuff about his life. Yeah.
No, well, because you guys were working on the same project ish, not the same exact project, but it was like similar.
No, we worked on an employment platform.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're working on a rape victims helping platform, and so we got to interview the stakeholder on Monday, and he decided to speak up about his experience and how he had so he was being super vulnerable. He's joining a new cohort, and all of a sudden he's just sharing. And I was just okay, you know, is that normal behavior? He shares a lot. Okay. I was just
Hold on. I was gonna say I'll be right back. I'm gonna bounce around.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Everybody was well, my group, they talk a lot. Our group, our cohort, we're all really close and we talk about everything. We're not weird or anything. Everybody just kind of is open.
Right.
We're all just kind of friends basically. And so yeah, everybody was kind of just chiming in and sharing their stuff. So I was just oh, okay. Just didn't seem out of the ordinary. My group's not weird about sharing.
Yeah.
They're just
yeah, I mean, he's honestly a pretty legit person most of the time. He just sometimes gets really off the deep end.
Oh, okay. He's not in my group, so
yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that. I think he's in Lennox's group, and Lennox is pretty real. He's pretty straight up. Lennox is my TL on Sundays on my 5th